Daniel Carter stood before the Galactic Council and knew they were not listening. He had known it for weeks now. But today the truth sat heavy in his chest like a stone. 50 years had passed since humanity first made contact with the wider galaxy. 50 years of trying to prove themselves worthy. 50 years of being treated like children who had stumbled into a room full of adults. The council chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from 200 different species. The architecture alone was meant to remind newcomers of their place. Towers of crystal stretched toward a ceiling that showed the stars themselves, and each council member sat on platforms that floated at different heights. The elder species sat highest, of course. The Corthanis, the Veltorians, the ancient races who had been traveling between stars when humanity was still learning to make fire. Humanity's platform was low. Very low. Daniel had stopped letting it bother him years ago, or so he told himself. Today, though, standing before the assembled council with Earth's only hope for helping the galaxy, the height of his platform felt like another small cruelty in a long list of them. The dimensional rifts, Daniel said, his voice clear and steady, are not a problem of energy containment. Our scientists believe they are mathematical in nature. The fabric of space is following equations, and if we can understand those equations, we can close the rifts permanently. Chairman Velthera, a being that looked like flowing silver water given form, made a sound that the translation device rendered as laughter. Other council members joined in. The sound filled the chamber, echoing off the crystal walls. Mathematics, Velthara said, his voice dripping with amusement. The humans believe mathematics can solve a crisis that has destroyed 17 worlds. How charming. With respect, Chairman, Daniel continued. Earth has developed quantum models that show clear patterns in how the rifts form and spread. We have successfully predicted the location of the last 4 rifts, with 97% accuracy. Our solution is based on proven research and practical testing. A Corthanis representative, an insectoid creature named Zixthar, clicked his mandibles together in their equivalent of a dismissive laugh. Your species has been traveling in space for barely half a century. We have studied dimensional mechanics for 10,000 years. You truly believe you understand something we do not? Daniel felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice level. I believe fresh perspectives can sometimes see solutions that become invisible to those too close to a problem. More laughter. This time it felt cruel. Deliberate. Daniel saw Nicole Brooks, the other human diplomat present, close her eyes briefly. She had warned him this would happen. They all had. Let me be clear, Velthara said, his form rippling with what might have been contempt. Humans are useful for certain tasks. Your world is harsh, your bodies are strong, and you can survive in conditions that would kill more civilized species. This makes you excellent laborers, excellent soldiers perhaps. But science, mathematics, these require a level of sophistication that your species has not yet achieved. We have achieved, Daniel started. But Velthara cut him off with a gesture. You have stumbled through technological development, like a blind creature feeling its way through darkness. Your nuclear weapons, your early space travel, all of it achieved through trial and error and lucky accidents. You do not innovate, Ambassador Carter. You fumble forward, and occasionally avoid killing yourselves in the process. The chamber filled with sounds of agreement. Daniel looked around at the assembled representatives, searching for even one sympathetic face. He found none. Even the younger species, those who had joined the council only centuries ago, looked at him with the same mixture of pity and contempt. The Corthanis have proposed an elegant solution, Velthara continued. They will deploy resonance dampeners at key points throughout the affected sectors. The technology is sophisticated, beautiful, and most importantly, developed by a species that understands the true nature of dimensional mechanics. Those dampeners will fail, Daniel said quietly. Our models show they will not only fail, they will make the problem worse by creating harmonic interference patterns. Zixthar rose from his platform, his wings spreading wide in anger. You dare question Corthanis engineering? Your species was living in caves when we were building stargates. Your arrogance is matched only by your ignorance. Daniel opened his mouth to respond, but Velthara spoke first. This council has heard enough. We appreciate Earth's enthusiasm. Truly we do. But this is a matter for the elder species to handle. Perhaps humanity should focus on the contributions they are actually capable of making. Your agricultural techniques have proven useful. Your willingness to patrol dangerous sectors of space that other species avoid is valuable. These are the ways Earth can serve the greater galactic community. Serve. The word hung in the air like a slap. Furthermore, Velthara said, his tone becoming almost casual. This council has been discussing the matter of membership contributions. It seems only fair that all member species contribute according to their means. We propose that Earth provide a regular shipment of rare minerals from your system. Consider it a tribute. A small price for the privilege of learning from the elder races. Tribute. That was the word that did it. Daniel felt something inside him break. Or perhaps it was something finally becoming clear. He had spent decades trying to earn respect from beings who would never give it. He had endured insults and dismissals and condescension, always believing that if humanity just proved themselves enough times, eventually they would be seen as equals. He had been wrong. Daniel looked down at the datapad in his hands, the one containing Earth's research, their solution, their best attempt at helping save billions of lives. Then he looked up at the council, at the beings who had just demanded tribute from his people, like they were subjects rather than partners. Chairman Velthara, Daniel said, his voice calm and clear. Members of the Galactic Council, I thank you for your time today, and for the years of experience you have shared with humanity. Velthara's form rippled with satisfaction. I am pleased you understand your place, Ambassador. I do understand, Daniel agreed. Which is why I must inform this council that the United Earth government is formally withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The chamber went silent. It was the kind of silence that felt heavy, like the moment before a storm breaks. Then Velthara laughed. It started as a small sound, then grew louder. Other council members joined in until the chamber rang with it. Withdrawing? Velthara said between laughs. Oh, Ambassador, do not be so dramatic. You are upset. I understand. But surely you realize that Earth needs this council far more than we need Earth? Daniel carefully closed his datapad and tucked it under his arm. Perhaps we do, Chairman. I suppose we will find out. You will be back within months, Zixthar said, still clicking with amusement. When your little rebellion proves inconvenient, when you realize how much you depend on council trade routes and protection and technology, you will return, and we may or may not choose to accept you again. That is your right, Daniel said. He turned to Nicole, who stood and gathered her own materials. Together, they walked toward the chamber doors. This is foolishness, Velthara called after them. You will regret this decision, Ambassador Carter. Daniel paused at the door and looked back one last time. I have many regrets, Chairman, but I do not believe this will be one of them. He walked out of the council chamber with his head high and his back straight. Behind him, the laughter continued. They thought this was a tantrum, a temporary fit of wounded pride from a young species that did not know better. Let them laugh, Daniel thought. Let them laugh now. They would not be laughing for long. The silence from Earth was absolute. 1 year had passed since Ambassador Daniel Carter walked out of the council chambers, and in that time, humanity had not sent a single message to any council member. Not a distress call, not a trade request, not even an angry complaint. Nothing. At first, the council had barely noticed. Velthara had made jokes about humans sulking in their corner of the galaxy, and most representatives agreed that Earth would come crawling back soon enough. But as weeks turned to months, something strange began to happen. Human ships stopped appearing in council space entirely. The trading posts that humans had maintained near the border zones went dark, their facilities stripped clean and abandoned. The agricultural stations that Earth had built on marginal worlds, places where they had turned near-worthless rock into productive farmland, stood empty. The patrol routes through dangerous sectors, the ones that humans had volunteered to monitor because no other species wanted the job, went unwatched. And still, Earth remained silent. Perhaps they are simply being stubborn, Counselor Draxel suggested during a session 6 months after the withdrawal. He was a Veltorian, one of the elder species, and he had laughed as loudly as anyone when Daniel Carter left. Now, though, his voice carried a note of uncertainty. They will realize their mistake eventually. They will realize their mistake eventually. Of course they will, Velthara agreed, though he sounded less confident than before. What choice do they have? Humanity cannot survive without access to council technology and trade networks. But humanity was not just surviving. The few independent traders who had visited Earth's system and lived to tell about it brought back troubling reports. Earth had built something around their star. A network of defensive stations, unlike anything the Council had seen before. The technology did not match anything in the known database, and the few ships that tried to enter the system without permission found themselves facing weapons that should not exist. One Corthanis science vessel had attempted to scan Earth's defenses from a distance. The scan had been blocked by some kind of interference field, and when the ship tried to push closer, a human voice had simply transmitted coordinates to the nearest council station and suggested they leave. The tone had been polite, but absolutely final. The Corthanis captain had left. Meanwhile, the dimensional rifts were getting worse. Zixthar stood before the council 8 months after humanity's departure and delivered news that no one wanted to hear. The resonance dampeners are not functioning as predicted, he said, his mandibles clicking in distress. The rifts are not closing. In fact, new calculations suggest they may be expanding faster than before. The chamber erupted in confused voices. Velthara called for silence, his silvery form rippling with agitation. This is a temporary setback, he declared. Corthanis technology is proven across millennia. The dampeners simply need adjustment. But the dampeners did not just need adjustment. They needed to be shut down completely before they tore holes in space that could not be repaired. The Corthanis engineers worked desperately to fix the problem, but every solution they tried only made things worse. The elegant mathematics that had seemed so perfect on paper failed when confronted with actual dimensional mechanics. Exactly as the human models had predicted. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but the thought hung over the council like a dark cloud. What if the humans had been right? Other problems began to surface. The Pleiadian species, who had relied on human agricultural techniques to feed their growing population, found their food production dropping. The methods seemed simple enough, but without human expertise to guide them, crop failures became common. People went hungry. The trade routes through the dangerous Krell expanse, which humans had patrolled for decades, became hunting grounds for pirates. Council security forces tried to take over, but they lacked the human ability to survive in the harsh radiation zones where the pirates hid. Merchant ships began avoiding the routes entirely, and trade between the outer and inner council worlds slowed to a trickle. Small problems. Individually, they were all small problems. Problems that the council had barely noticed humans solving, because they had seemed too minor for important species to worry about. Now, though, those small problems were adding up. We should contact them, Counselor Draxel said during a closed session 10 months after the withdrawal. Simply to open dialogue. We do not have to apologize. But perhaps we can discuss mutual interests. And show weakness? Velthara demanded. Absolutely not. Earth left the council. If they wish to return, they know where to find us. Several attempts were made anyway, quietly, by individual species. The messages were sent through every available channel, sometimes offering trade, sometimes asking questions, sometimes simply trying to start a conversation. Every message went unanswered. Earth had closed its borders and its ears. President Christopher Wade stood before a crowd of millions on Earth, his image broadcast to every human colony in their growing network of settlements. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady eyes, and when he spoke, people listened. 1 year ago, Wade said, his voice carrying across the crowd, we made a choice. We chose to walk away from a council that did not value us, did not respect us, and did not see us as equals. Some people said we were making a mistake. Some said we could not survive on our own. He paused, looking out at the sea of faces before him, and the cameras that would carry his words to humanity's far-flung colonies. They were wrong, Wade continued. In this past year, we have accomplished more than we did in 50 years of council membership. We have built new defensive systems to protect our homes. We have expanded our colonies and made them truly self-sufficient. We have developed technologies that are ours alone, created through our own research and our own ingenuity. The crowd erupted in cheers. Wade waited for them to quiet before continuing. But more importantly, we have remembered who we are. Humanity did not reach for the stars by asking permission. We did not overcome the challenges of our own world by waiting for someone to show us the way. We are explorers, innovators, and survivors. We do not need the Council's approval to be great. We never did. In the crowd, Dr. Melissa Chen stood with her research team, all of them wearing expressions of quiet pride. They had done it. Project Sanctuary was complete. The solution to the dimensional rifts, the one the Council had laughed at, now sat ready in Earth's secure research facilities. It worked. They had tested it in controlled conditions, and the results were perfect. They could save the galaxy if they wanted to. The question was whether they should. Some of you have asked me if we will help the Council with their crisis, Wade said, as if reading Chen's thoughts. You have asked if we will share our knowledge, extend our hand to species who rejected us. He let the question hang in the air for a moment. Here is my answer. We will not abandon our principles. We will not become cruel simply because others were cruel to us. But we will also not return to a system that treated us as lesser beings. Earth has turned its back on the Council, not on the innocent people suffering because of the Council's arrogance. Wade's expression hardened. If individual species come to us with respect, with genuine partnership, we will listen. But we will not go begging for the Council's attention. Those days are over. The speech was broadcast across known space, impossible to block or ignore. In the Council chambers, representatives watched in silence. Some looked angry, some looked thoughtful, a few looked afraid. On the colony world of New Terra, human children played in parks that had been carved from wilderness in less than a year. The terraforming techniques Earth had developed, the ones that improved on Council methods, had turned the planet into a garden world ahead of schedule. Crops grew in abundance. Schools and hospitals rose from the ground. The colony thrived. Other human settlements showed similar success. Mars, once a dusty research outpost, now held 3 million people. The orbital habitats around Jupiter had doubled in size. New colonies had been established on worlds the Council had deemed too difficult or too dangerous to settle. Humanity had taken their dismissal and turned it into fuel for achievement. Admiral Patrick Morgan stood on the command deck of the ESS Horizon, Earth's newest and most advanced ship. It had been built entirely with human technology, incorporating designs that the Council had never seen. The ship was not just a vessel, it was a statement. Sir, his communications officer said, we are receiving another hail from a Council vessel. They are requesting permission to enter Earth space for diplomatic talks. Morgan did not even need to think about it. Denied. Transmit the standard message. If they wish to speak with Earth's government, they can submit a formal request through official channels. They have submitted 7 formal requests, sir. All have been denied. Then they have their answer, Morgan said calmly. The Council ship lingered at the border of Earth's space for 3 hours before finally turning away. Morgan watched it go on his display screen and felt nothing but satisfaction. In the Council chambers, Chairman Velthara faced growing pressure from member species, who were starting to ask uncomfortable questions. Why had humanity's predictions about the rifts been accurate? Why had their agricultural methods worked so well? Why had so many small systems started failing after the humans left? And most troubling of all, why was Earth thriving while Council space slowly fell apart? Velthara had no good answers. He insisted that the problems were temporary, that the elder species would find solutions, that humanity's success was built on stolen Council knowledge. But fewer and fewer representatives believed him. The dimensional rifts had now consumed 23 worlds. Billions had been evacuated, and billions more lived in fear of being next. The Council's elegant solution had failed. Their pride had prevented them from reconsidering. And now, as their civilization began to crack under the weight of consequences they had brought upon themselves, Earth stood apart and untouchable, silent, independent, free, and absolutely, terrifyingly successful. 3 years after humanity turned its back on the Galactic Council, Counselor Draxel admitted something he had never thought possible. They were right, he said quietly during a private meeting with several other representatives. The humans were right, and we were wrong. The others in the room said nothing. They were all from younger species, ones who had not been part of the Council long enough to develop the deep arrogance of the elder races. They had watched the dimensional crisis unfold with growing horror. And now, sitting in a secure room away from the main chambers, they finally spoke the truth that no one dared say in public. 17 worlds are gone, said Ambassador Kevin Park, a young diplomat from the Pleiadian species. His people had been among the hardest hit, losing 2 of their most populated planets to the rifts. 17 worlds consumed because we chose pride over wisdom. The Corthanis solution was mathematically sound. Another representative protested weakly, but even he did not sound convinced. The Corthanis solution was based on incomplete models, Draxel said. The humans told us this. They showed us their calculations. We laughed at them. Kevin Park stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Council station that orbited a neutron star. It had seemed so grand when he first arrived, a symbol of galactic civilization and ancient wisdom. Now it just looked old and hollow. My people are starving, he said. Our farms are failing without the techniques the humans taught us. We thought we understood the methods, but there was something more to it, something in how they approached the problem. And now they are gone, and we cannot even ask them for help, because we treated them like servants, Draxel said bitterly, like useful animals who should be grateful for our attention. The room fell silent again. Outside, the work of the Council continued. Representatives still debating solutions to problems that were growing worse by the day, but in this small room, a handful of beings finally acknowledged what their pride had cost them. Captain Brandon Lewis of the ESS Valiant watched the refugee ships approach on his display screen and felt a deep sadness settle over him. There were 12 vessels, all of them running on failing power systems, all of them packed with families who had lost everything to the dimensional rifts. They were heading straight for Earth's border, and Lewis knew what he had to do. Hail them, he ordered. The face that appeared on his screen was a Corthanis female, her mandibles trembling with exhaustion and fear. Please, she said immediately. We have children aboard. We need sanctuary. The rifts have taken our world. Lewis felt his heart break a little. These were not council representatives or arrogant diplomats. These were just people, refugees who had done nothing wrong except be born into a system that valued pride over compassion. I understand your situation, Lewis said gently, and I am deeply sorry for your loss. But I cannot grant you entry to Earth's space. Please, the Corthanis begged. We have nowhere else to go. Your species is known for protecting refugees. We have heard stories of human compassion, and those stories are true, Lewis said, which is why I am going to help you. But I cannot take you into our space. You are Council citizens, and Earth has closed its borders to all Council members and affiliates. He saw hope die in her eyes and hated himself for it. But orders were orders, and the policy was clear. Earth would not become a haven for those who had mocked them, even if the individuals seeking help were innocent. However, Lewis continued quickly, I am transmitting coordinates to 3 independent worlds that are accepting refugees. They are outside Council jurisdiction, and they have resources to help you. Additionally, I am transferring emergency supplies to your ships right now. Food, medicine, fuel cells, and repair materials. The Corthanis woman stared at him in confusion. You are helping us? We are not cruel, Lewis said. We walked away from the Council, not from our humanity. You will find enough supplies in those transfers to reach the coordinates safely, with reserves to spare. The independent worlds will take care of you. The cargo transfers took 2 hours. Lewis made sure every refugee ship received more than enough to reach safety, including medical supplies for the children and elderly. When the ships finally turned away from Earth's border and set course for the coordinates, he watched them go with mixed feelings. He had done the right thing. He knew that. But it still felt wrong to turn away people in need. "Sir," his first officer said quietly, "that is the 8th group of refugees we have redirected this month." Lewis nodded. "And it will not be the last." In the council chambers, the debates had become desperate. Chairman Velthara stood before the assembled representatives, his silvery form flickering with agitation as he tried to maintain control of a situation that was rapidly spiraling out of his grasp. "We must consider a formal apology to Earth," one representative said. "A member of a species that had lost an entire colony to the rifts. If there is any chance they will share their solution, we must take it." "No," Velthara said firmly. "We will not debase ourselves before a species that has barely left its own solar system. The elder races have survived for millennia without human help. We will find our own solutions." "What solutions?" Kevin Park demanded, standing from his platform. "The Corthanus dampeners failed. Every alternative we have tried has failed. Meanwhile, we have reports that human colonies are using some kind of rift stabilization technology that actually works. They have the answer, Chairman, and our pride is killing billions." "Alleged reports," Velthara shot back. "We have no concrete proof that humanity has solved anything. For all we know, they are simply avoiding the affected regions. They predicted the exact locations of the last 11 rifts," Draxel said. "Before they left, Ambassador Carter provided calculations that we dismissed. Every single one of those predictions has proven accurate. How much proof do you need?" The chamber erupted in arguments. Species blamed each other for the crisis. Elder races defended their honor while younger ones demanded action. Through it all, Velthara tried to maintain his authority, but his grip was slipping. Finally, after hours of debate, a vote was called. Should the council formally apologize to humanity and request their assistance? The elder species voted no. The younger species voted yes. The result was deadlock, which meant the status quo remained. No apology, no outreach, just pride and consequences. On the human colony of New Terra, Amanda Foster walked through fields of golden grain and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. 3 years ago, this world had been marginal at best, a place the council had marked as barely worth the effort of terraforming. Now it was a paradise, proof of what humanity could accomplish when they stopped trying to earn someone else's approval. "The harvest is going to exceed projections by 30%, her agricultural minister reported. "We will have surplus to trade with the independent colonies." "Wald?" Foster nodded. New Terra had become a hub for the growing network of human settlements and allied independent species. It was not a council, not a government in the traditional sense. It was something new, built on principles of mutual respect and genuine partnership. "I received another communication from a council representative," Foster said. "They wanted to know if we would consider sharing our terraforming techniques." "What did you tell them?" "I told them to submit a formal request to Earth's diplomatic corps," Foster said with a slight smile. "The same thing we tell everyone from the council." "And will Earth consider it?" Foster looked out at the fields, at the cities rising in the distance, at the children playing in parks that had not existed when her colony first landed. "Probably not. Not until the council changes what it is at its core. And maybe not even then." Reports filtered back to the council about human success, and each one felt like a small knife wound. Human colonies were accepting refugees, but only from independent species. Human trade networks were expanding, but they carefully avoided all council space. Human technology was advancing at an incredible pace. But none of it was shared with those who had dismissed them, and most cutting of all, 3 younger species had formally left the council to join humanity's growing alliance. They cited a desire for genuine partnership rather than hierarchical condescension. Their departure sent shockwaves through the council chambers. "This is unacceptable," Velthara declared. "We must take action against Earth for poaching our members." "They did not poach anyone," Draxel said tiredly. "Those species left because we failed them, because we value ancient pride more than present survival." In a small apartment on Earth, Daniel Carter sat by his window and looked up at the stars. He had retired from diplomatic service after returning home, choosing instead to teach at the academy, where future ambassadors learned their trade. His lessons focused on dignity, respect, and knowing when to walk away. A message arrived on his personal terminal. It was from a low-level council functionary, asking if he would be willing to meet with a small delegation unofficially. They wanted to discuss possibilities, explore options, find a path forward. Daniel read the message twice, then deleted it without responding. There was a time when he would have jumped at such an opportunity, when any crumb of respect from the council would have felt like victory. But that man was gone. Buried somewhere in the council chambers 3 years ago when he finally understood that some people would never see you as equal no matter how hard you tried. He looked back up at the stars, at the galaxy that humanity had once desperately wanted to be part of. They were still part of it, he realized. Just not in the way the council had intended. Humanity had built something better. And if the council could not see that, could not value it, could not bring themselves to offer genuine respect instead of condescending tolerance, then they could face their crisis alone. Daniel had no regrets. The galaxy was learning, slowly and painfully, that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, or their resilience, or their stubborn refusal to give up. It was their willingness to walk away from anyone who did not value them, even if it meant watching the galaxy burn. 5 years after humanity walked away, the Galactic Council was dying. 23 worlds were gone, consumed by dimensional rifts that continued to spread despite every attempt to stop them. The economy had collapsed in all but name. Trade routes that had existed for thousands of years were abandoned. Species that had thrived for millennia now struggled to feed their people. And still, Earth remained silent. Ambassador Kevin Park stood outside the council chambers and made a decision that would either save his career or end it. He was young for a diplomat, barely 40 standard years old. But he had watched the elder species drive the galaxy toward ruin with their pride and their certainty. Someone had to try something different. Someone had to go to Earth. He did not ask for permission. He did not file a flight plan or notify his superiors. He simply took his personal shuttle, the one his government provided for diplomatic travel, and pointed it toward human space. The journey took 6 days. 6 days of wondering if he was making a terrible mistake. 6 days of preparing arguments, practicing speeches, trying to find words that might convince humanity to help a council that had treated them with contempt. Earth's defensive grid detected him 3 hours before he reached the border. A human voice came through his communication system. Calm and professional. Unidentified vessel, you are approaching restricted space. State your identity and purpose. This is Ambassador Kevin Park, of the Pleiadian delegation, he said, his voice steady despite his nerves. I request permission to speak with Earth's government regarding the dimensional crisis. There was a long pause. Ambassador Park, our records show you are a council representative. Earth does not receive council delegations. I know, Kevin said. I am not here representing the council. I am here as one person asking another for help. Please. My people are dying. Another pause, longer this time. Kevin wondered if they would simply deny him and send him back. But then the voice returned. You will be escorted to Mars Station 7. A representative will meet you there. Any deviation from the prescribed course will result in your immediate expulsion from our space. Do you understand? Yes, Kevin said, relief flooding through him. Thank you. The escort ships appeared moments later, sleek human vessels that moved with a precision that spoke to advanced technology. They guided him through the defensive grid, past stations that bristled with weapons Kevin could not identify, and finally, to a small diplomatic facility on Mars. Dr. Melissa Chen was waiting for him in a simple meeting room. She was younger than he expected, perhaps 50 human years, with dark hair pulled back and eyes that seemed to see right through him. Ambassador Park, she said, gesturing to a chair. Please, sit. Can I offer you anything? Water? We have some foods compatible with your biology. No, thank you, Kevin said, taking the offered seat. I appreciate you seeing me. I will be honest with you, Chen said. settling into her own chair. I almost did not. The council made its position very clear 5 years ago. Why should we listen now? Kevin took a breath. Because people are dying. Not the council members, not the politicians who made the decisions. Ordinary people. Children. Families. Species who had nothing to do with how your ambassadors were treated. I know, Chen said softly. We have been monitoring the situation. Every rift, every lost world, every refugee ship. We know exactly what is happening. Then you know we need help, Kevin said. Your species predicted this. Ambassador Carter tried to warn us. We should have listened. Thanks. We should have listened. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching. We have to do and see you come for Sida. Thank you for watching. We have to see you come for watching. We have to do and said. Chen stood and walked to the window, looking out at the red landscape of Mars. Cities stretched to the horizon now. Domed habitats that housed millions. Mars had been transformed in 5 years, turned from a research outpost into a thriving world. Do you know what this facility was 5 years ago? Chen asked. It was a small station with maybe 300 people, scientists, mostly, studying atmospheric conversion techniques. Now it is a city of 2 million, and we did it without council help, without council approval, without council condescension. I understand that you were wronged, Kevin said carefully. Do you? Chen turned to face him, and her expression was not angry, just tired. Do you understand what it was like to spend 50 years proving ourselves? Only to be told we were useful for labor and nothing more? Do you understand what it was like to offer a solution that could save billions, only to be laughed at? Kevin looked down at his hands. No. I do not think I can truly understand. But I am here to tell you that you were right. About everything. The rifts. The solution. All of it. And to ask, humbly, if you will help us fix our mistake. Chen returned to her seat and studied him for a long moment. We have a solution, she said finally. We have had it for 4 years. It works. We have tested it extensively. Hope flared in Kevin's chest. Will you share it? With your people? Yes, Chen said, but not with the council. Kevin blinked in confusion. I do not understand. The Pleiadian species left the council 6 months ago, Chen said. Your government formally withdrew and requested membership in the Independent Alliance. We accepted. As an allied species, you will receive full access to our dimensional rift, stabilization technology, along with technical support and training. We left the council? Kevin asked, stunned. Your government did not inform its diplomatic corps? Chen seemed amused. That is unfortunate. But yes, Ambassador. Or rather, former Ambassador. Your people decided they would rather have a future than pride. Kevin sat back in his chair, trying to process this information. His government had left the council. They had joined humanity's alliance. Everything had changed while he was traveling to beg for help. The council will not react well to this, he said quietly. The council has reacted poorly to everything, Chen said. Which is why they are in this situation. Ambassador Park. Earth will gladly help any species that approaches us with respect and genuine partnership. We have helped dozens of independent worlds already, but we will not help the council. Not while it remains the same arrogant, hierarchical system that valued ancient pride over present wisdom. Kevin looked at her directly. What if the council changes? What if they finally apologize? Chen's smile was sad. Then, we would appreciate the apology. But it would not change our decision. Some things cannot be fixed with words. We would not. Kevin returned to council space with information that would shatter what remained of the old order. His shuttle was met by security forces the moment he docked, and he was immediately escorted to a closed session of the council. Chairman Velthara looked worse than Kevin remembered. His silvery form flickered erratically, and his voice carried an edge of desperation. "You left your post without authorization," Velthara said. "You entered Earth's space in direct violation of Council policy." "Explain yourself, Ambassador." "I went to seek help for our people," Kevin said calmly. "And I learned that my government has already found that help by leaving this council." The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions and accusations. Velthara's form rippled with rage. "You are under arrest for treason," the chairman declared. "Security. Take him into custody." "On what charge?" Draxel stood from his platform, his voice cutting through the noise. "He sought to save lives." "If that is treason, then we have become everything the humans accused us of being." "He violated direct orders," Velthara shot back. "Orders that are killing us," another representative called out. "Orders that prioritize pride over survival." The chamber divided into factions. The elder species rallied behind Velthara, demanding punishment for Kevin's unauthorized mission. The younger species defended him, arguing that desperate times required desperate measures. The argument lasted for hours, growing more heated as positions hardened. Finally, a representative from a younger species stood and delivered a prepared statement. "The Draxian Collective formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will be seeking membership in the Independent Alliance." Before Velthara could respond, another species announced their withdrawal. Then another. In the span of 20 minutes, 3 more species left the council, citing a desire for survival over tradition. The exodus had begun. 2 weeks later, a formal diplomatic mission from the council arrived at the border of Earth's space. It was led by Councillor Draxel, who had finally accepted that pride would not save them. The delegation was small, carefully chosen to avoid including the most arrogant elder species. Nicole Brooks met them at a neutral station on the border. She was older now, with gray in her hair, but her eyes still held the same sharp intelligence Daniel Carter had relied on during their time together. "Councillor Draxel," she said formally. "Welcome. I understand you wish to speak about the dimensional crisis." "We do," Draxel said. "And I have been authorized to offer a formal apology on behalf of the Council for how humanity was treated." Nicole nodded slowly. "I appreciate that. Truly. It takes courage to admit mistakes." "Will Earth help us?" Draxel asked, hope clear in his voice. Nicole gestured for him to sit, and they settled across from each other at a simple table. "Earth will help any species in need," she said. "We have already begun distributing rift stabilization technology to independent worlds and our allied species. We will not let innocent people die because of the Council's mistakes." "Then you will share the solution with us?" "We will share it with individual species that request it," Nicole clarified. "But not with the Council as an institution. Earth has no interest in rejoining an organization that values hierarchy over cooperation, age over merit, and pride over wisdom." "The Council has changed," Draxel protested. "Many of the elder species are facing pressure to reform. Your departure has forced us to reconsider our assumptions." "That is good," Nicole said genuinely. "Real change is always good. But it does not change Earth's position. Your apology is accepted, Counselor. It means something. But Earth has moved beyond needing the Council's approval or participation." She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "Humanity spent 50 years trying to prove we belonged in your chambers. 50 years of seeking acceptance from beings who saw us as lesser. When we finally walked away, we discovered something important." "What was that?" Draxel asked quietly. "We never needed you," Nicole said simply. "We thought we did. We thought being part of the Council meant we had made it, that we were truly part of the galactic community. But the community we have built in these 5 years is better than anything the Council ever offered. It is based on respect, not hierarchy. On partnership, not dominance. On what species can offer each other, not on how long they have been traveling the stars." She turned back to face him. "So yes, we will help save lives. We will share our technology with those who need it. But we will not return to a system that has not truly changed, and an apology, while appreciated, is not enough to prove that change." Draxel sat in silence for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I understand. What can we do to prove we have changed? Nicole considered the question. Dissolve the council. Rebuild it from the ground up. Create something new. Something where all species are truly equal. Then come talk to us about partnership. The words hung in the air between them, a challenge and an offer at once. Draxel knew that what she asked was nearly impossible. The elder species would never agree to dissolve the council. Their entire identity was built on its ancient traditions and hierarchies, but he also knew she was right. The old council was dead. It just had not stopped moving yet. 7 years after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, President Christopher Wade stood before a gathering that represented half the known galaxy and prepared to change everything. The old council chambers were nearly empty now. Of the 200 species that had once filled its platforms, fewer than 90 remained. The rest had left, some joining humanity's independent alliance, others choosing to stand alone rather than continue supporting a system that had failed them so completely. But today was different. Today, species from across the galaxy had gathered at humanity's invitation, not at the council's command. They floated on platforms or stood on floors, sat in chairs or hovered in energy fields, all of them waiting to hear what Earth had to say. Wade looked out at them and remembered the young diplomat who had walked out of these chambers 7 years ago. Daniel Carter had shown the galaxy what dignity looked like. Now it was time to show them what compassion looked like. 7 years ago, Wade began, his voice carrying through translation devices to every being present. Humanity left this council. We left because we were not valued, not respected, and not heard. We left because we realized that earning respect from those who refuse to give it is a waste of time and spirit. He paused, letting his words settle. In those 7 years, we have built something new. The Independent Alliance is not a council in the old sense. It is a partnership of equals, where a species' worth is measured by their character and contributions, not by how long they have been traveling the stars. 15 species now call the Alliance home, and we have thrived together. Wade gestured to the display behind him, which showed star maps of Alliance space, cities, colonies, trade routes, all thriving and growing. But we have also watched the galaxy suffer. We have seen worlds consumed by dimensional rifts. We have seen families torn apart, children left orphaned, entire civilizations brought to the edge of extinction. And we have known, for years now, that we could help. Silence filled the chamber, heavy with expectation. Today, I am announcing that Earth is releasing the dimensional rift stabilization technology to all species, freely and without restriction. Any world, any people, any government can access the complete technical specifications and implementation guides. We will provide training, support, and assistance to anyone who needs it. The chamber erupted in voices, but Wade raised his hand for silence. We are not doing this for political gain. We are not doing it to embarrass the old council or prove a point. We are doing it because it is right, because billions of lives are worth more than our pride or our anger, because humanity never stopped being human, even when others treated us as less than that. Dr. Melissa Chen stood in the audience with her research team, watching as the data packages were transmitted across the galaxy simultaneously. Every species, every government, every scientific institution was receiving the complete solution at the same moment. No one had priority. No one had to beg. The mathematics were elegant, the implementation straightforward for any species with basic dimensional engineering capabilities. It would save the galaxy, and Earth was giving it away for free. My team and I will remain available for consultation, Chen said during the technical briefing that followed. We want to see this succeed everywhere, not just in Alliance space. If you have questions, ask. If you need help, request it. We will answer. The deployment began within days. Human engineers traveled to affected worlds, working alongside local scientists to implement the stabilization technology. The rifts began to close, slowly at first, then faster as the technique was perfected. Worlds that had been evacuated could be reclaimed. Space that had been too dangerous to travel became safe again. Billions of lives were saved, and Earth asked for nothing in return. Former Chairman Velthara stood in a small apartment on his homeworld and watched the news broadcasts with a mixture of relief and shame. He was no longer chairman. His own people had removed him from power 6 months ago. Tired of his pride and his failures, he lived now in quiet disgrace, a lesson in what happened when arrogance met reality. But today, he had a message from an unexpected source. Daniel Carter would agree to meet with him. Not for politics or negotiation, just to talk. They met in a garden on Earth, a simple place with flowers and trees, and a small pond where fish swam in lazy circles. Daniel looked older but content. The stress of his diplomatic years replaced by the peace of retirement and teaching. "Thank you for seeing me," Velthara said, his silvery form flickering nervously. "I know I have no right to ask for your time." 5. "No," Daniel agreed, settling onto a bench. "But I gave it anyway." "Please. Sit." Velthara's form adjusted to create something like a seated position. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, the former chairman found words. "I was wrong about your species. About you. About everything." "Yes," Daniel said simply. "You were. I do not expect forgiveness," Velthara continued. "I do not even know if I deserve the chance to apologize. But I needed you to know that I see it now. Your worth, your intelligence, your dignity. I see what we threw away because we were too proud to admit that age does not equal wisdom." Daniel looked at him for a long moment. "Why did you treat us that way? What was it about humanity that made you so certain we were lesser?" Velthara's form rippled with emotion. "Fear, I think. You were different. You came from a death world. Violent and harsh. And yet you were kind. You faced challenges that would have destroyed my people, and yet you thrived. You represented change, and we elder species have built our entire identity on the assumption that we are the pinnacle of development. You thought if we were equal to you, it meant you were not special anymore," Daniel said. "Yes," Velthara admitted. "And rather than accept that, we diminished you. We told ourselves stories about why you did not matter, why your achievements were accidents, why your ideas were primitive. We needed to believe it because the alternative was too frightening." Daniel nodded slowly. "I appreciate your honesty. And for what it is worth, I accept your apology." "Your species is saving the galaxy," Velthara said. "After everything we did to you, you are saving us anyway. Because that is who we are," Daniel said. "We are not perfect. We have our own problems, our own failures, our own capacity for cruelty. But we try to be better. We try to help, and we refuse to let someone else's judgment define our worth." They sat together for a while longer. Two old diplomats from different worlds, both understanding that some damage could never be fully repaired. But acknowledgement mattered. Truth mattered. And sometimes, that had to be enough. The old Galactic Council held its final session 3 months later. The vote was not even close. The remaining member species agreed unanimously to dissolve the ancient institution and create something new in its place. The Galactic Assembly was born from the ashes of the Council's arrogance. Its charter was written by representatives from dozens of species, with humanity's principles woven throughout. All species were equal, regardless of age or technological level. Decisions required genuine consensus, not just the approval of elder races. Leadership rotated regularly, preventing any one species from accumulating too much power. It was everything the old council should have been. Several elder species, the ones who had mocked humanity most loudly, requested membership in the Independent Alliance. Each request was carefully reviewed. Some were accepted after demonstrating genuine cultural change. Others were denied, though Earth offered them partnership agreements and trade relationships instead. "We are not building an empire," President Wade explained to his advisors. "We are building a community, and communities require shared values, not just shared interests." Nicole Brooks stood at the podium during the first official session of the Galactic Assembly and looked out at a chamber that felt different from the old council. The platforms were all at the same height now. The architecture emphasized cooperation rather than hierarchy. And most importantly, the faces looking back at her showed respect rather than contempt. "This is a new beginning," she said. "Not just for this assembly, but for our entire galaxy. We have learned hard lessons about the cost of pride, the danger of assuming that age equals wisdom, and the importance of recognizing that good ideas can come from anywhere." She looked around the chamber, meeting eyes and visual organs and energy patterns from dozens of different species. Humanity did not set out to destroy the old council. We simply walked away from a system that did not value us. What happened after that was a choice each species made for themselves. Some chose to change. Some chose to cling to old ways. The results speak for themselves. Nicole smiled slightly. "We have shown the galaxy that sometimes the greatest power is not in forcing others to accept you. It is in building something so good that others want to join you, in creating a community based on respect and partnership rather than hierarchy and tradition. The dimensional crisis is ending. Worlds are being reclaimed. Families are being reunited. And we did this together, as equals, with compassion and cooperation. This is what the galaxy can be when we set aside pride and embrace possibility." The assembly responded with sounds of agreement in dozens of languages and formats. It was not the same as the old council's polite applause. It was genuine, heartfelt, and real. On the colony world of New Terra, children played in a park that bordered a school where human and alien students learned together. A Pleiadian girl showed her human friend how to weave traditional patterns. A human boy taught a Draxian how to throw a baseball. They laughed and argued and played without caring about which species was older or more advanced. They were just kids, learning and growing together. Amanda Foster watched them from her office window and felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This was what they had built. Not just cities and colonies and trade routes, but a future where species met as equals, where worth was proven through action rather than assumed through age. President Wade sat in his office on Earth and reviewed reports from across the galaxy. The rift stabilization was ahead of schedule. The assembly was functioning well. The alliance continued to grow, carefully and thoughtfully. Trade flourished. Science advanced through cooperation. Peace held not because of military might, but because species genuinely wanted to work together. He thought about the choice humanity had made 7 years ago. The moment when Daniel Carter stood and walked away. It had seemed like a risk at the time. Maybe even a mistake. They had been so new to the galaxy, so uncertain of their place. But walking away had been the best decision Earth had ever made. They had not destroyed the old order through force or conquest. They had simply shown the galaxy a better way and let others choose for themselves. Some had chosen change. Some had chosen pride. And the galaxy was better for it because now every species had the freedom to make that choice. Humanity had turned its back on the Galactic Council, not out of spite or revenge, but because they knew their worth. And in doing so, they had taught the galaxy that respect cannot be demanded, only earned. That wisdom is not measured in years but in actions. That true strength comes from knowing when to walk away and when to extend a hand. The council had laughed when humanity left, certain they would come crawling back. They had been wrong about that too. Humanity had built something better, something lasting, something real. And when the galaxy finally learned to value cooperation over hierarchy, compassion over pride, and partnership over dominance, humans were there to welcome them, not as subjects or servants, as equals, as partners, as friends. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and humanity, patient and dignified through it all, had shown them that the best revenge is not destruction but success, not anger but achievement, not bitterness, but building a better tomorrow. The Galactic Council was gone, replaced by something worthy of the name, and Earth, the species that had been dismissed as primitive deathworlders, stood at the heart of it all, not because they demanded it, but because they earned it.